Hi Vedant, how are you?
Hi, hello, I'm audible.
Yes, you are. How are you, Vedant?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm also good. We are also good. Congratulations on being the lone warrior.
Thank
Oh,
you so much for that.
yeah. So we really liked your, in-depth detailing and everything that you did, right? And as someone who is representing the team individually and is still, trying to cope up with the delivery at such a level
Mhm.
that, you have the potential of, coming to this round. Yeah. So Vedant, with us, we have Mr. Rahul Jain. He's the business head of the corporate vertical at MBAtrek, and obviously
Okay.
Mr. Abhishek Srivastava, who is the CEO of our company, MBAtrek. Okay. So Vedant, just to take this forward, because you look a bit nervous. Okay, so feel comfortable, because
Yeah.
unlike whatever the protocol might be, in a corporate competition presentation in front of the core team, feel very
Right.
relaxed. The next, 1 hour or so is totally yours. It's your time. It's not our time. So
Okay.
take it forward the way you want to. Okay, but just following the basic rules and guidelines, which I'll walk you through in the next couple of minutes. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Sorry,
So
Ayush, can I just quickly say something?
yes, sir.
Vedant, if you don't mind, I
Hmm.
think you're sitting against the light.
Yeah.
So if you can sit with the light shining on you, it might be a
Um.
little better. If you can move, if not, then don't worry about it. That's fine.
Yeah. Actually, that might be difficult. The thing is, it's my brother's wedding going on right now. So there are
Oh,
25
wow.
people in my house right now, and this is the only quiet spot I was able to find. So yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry for
Now,
that.
now, now that we know the context, we're okay. By the way, congratulations on your brother's wedding as well.
Thank you.
So, no, wonderful. Go ahead. I think Ayush, let's go ahead then.
Sure, sir. So Vedant, officially welcome and congratulations, right?
Thank you.
I'll just walk you through the basic timelines, basic time guidelines and general rules. We will start with a basic introduction, starting with our team, and then we will ask you to introduce yourself. Once we are all comfortable and the environment is totally set, you get your presentation. Time to start. Okay, the time that we have allocated to you is 20 minutes. So we had told you 15 minutes earlier, but then based on the responses that we got from multiple teams, I think 20 minutes is a good enough time to present both the parts, A and B, 1 and 2. Okay. Post
Definitely.
the presentation round, we will have a Q&A round of 20 minutes, which is a two-way session. We would
Hmm.
definitely start with asking questions based on your presentation and whatever we feel fit. At the end, you're also open. You're also free to ask whatever question that you have. For Team MBAtrek. Okay.
Okay.
Talking about general rules, well, the first one goes by default, and that is what we have been trying to tell you: stay relaxed, stay focused, make the best use out of this thing, right? And this is how you're going to drive it in the very positive direction, right? Just as what you're doing currently, please keep your cameras on all the time, right? So that we can see you when you're actually presenting and delivering, the answers. In
Hmm.
case of any network issue, and we think, it's definitely going to happen either from your side or from our side, right? It's work from
Right.
home, and so that goes by default, right? So feel free that time, if there is any, will not be counted in 20 minutes. Okay, you can connect to some other network, have your own time, and just get back. Okay, so that is totally okay. Now, as a presenter, you should also be aware about the criteria that, on the basis of which you would be evaluated as a whole. So the first one, is the backbone of this competition. That is your user experience that you have created with respect to the flow, the journey, your, the designing part and the definition part of the entire experience, right? That goes at the very first go. The second is your real world or real time applicability. So your solution should be something which is applicable in real time scenario. No matter how beautiful it is, if it cannot be implemented.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay. Did I get disconnected now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ayush, you gave the proof of the pudding itself. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Is the screen visible?
Not yet.
Just a second. Um, yeah, is it now?
It is.
Yeah, okay. So I was talking, till which point did you hear, Vedant? You were clear about the first criteria, user experience?
Yeah, we were halfway through the second one.
Okay, so the second one, goes by default. Your solution should be implementable, right, in the real world.
Right.
The third is by default, we are pursuing MBA, so your business understanding of the product, the users, the entire market, industry, company goes by default. The fourth one is your attention to detail or your in-depth analysis of what you have provided, okay, what you have done. And finally, the fifth one is for the next 40 minutes that you have based on your presentation and your delivery, right? As far as the content of, this entire slide goes, any questions that you have, Vedant, for us?
Not really. I think I'm good.
Okay, all good, all fine?
Yep.
Okay, that is great. Also, what I'll do is, Vedant, after 10 minutes and after 15 minutes of time, I'll just remind you of the time that, that you have left with yourself.
That
So
would
that,
be very helpful. Yes.
just structure or restructure your presentation accordingly. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I think that is all from my side. Now, I would request Abhishek sir to start with the introduction of Team MBAtrek and himself. Over to you, sir.
Okay. So I think just to follow up from where you said, I think this is no longer a process of rejection; it's a process of selection. You are selected, and the idea is we want to hear more from you. And I think the way to look at it is it's basically four MBAs sitting together. Three of them are passed out. One's sort of working on his MBA right now, right?
Yeah.
So think of us as four business professionals sitting together trying to solve a problem. And I think let's run it like a meeting. Why don't you present the concept, and then later on it's not even a Q&A. We have to call it a Q&A, but it's like a deliberation, right?
Okay.
We'll ask you some questions. In fact, at the end we want you to ask us some questions as well.
Okay.
So let's keep it two-way. Yeah, I think don't worry about the network issues and all. We've budgeted enough time, so that's what it is. Quick introduction from my end. I'm the CEO and co-founder of MBAtrek. Yes, was an engineer like most of us in the country. A long back, almost 20 years back, is when I started my engineering. So that gives you an idea of how old I am. I was an environmental engineer, so a different engineer, and I think very honored and privileged to have actually worked in my field. So I worked as an environmental and sustainability consultant, for almost 10 years in my career with good firms, both outside India in the US and in Accenture in India, and had to travel a lot around the world to do and execute projects. So I think that was some great learning for me. And yeah, I think with with Apple in a very interesting sort of business strategy, business sales role. Mentoring has been something that I've always wanted to do. Been doing it very regularly at all my alma maters, whether it's TC, Georgia Tech, or ISB. I'm actually a registered mentor with all the three institutes or universities. And yeah, I've done it a lot through my entire career, and MBAtrek's a passion. I went full time into MBAtrek in 2018. So just a quick couple of reflections on life in general. Entrepreneur too late by 10 years. Studied far too much in life. Nobody should do 3 degrees. It's just overkill. And
I'm almost.
yeah, I think massive sports fanatic. Don't follow football so much, but follow every other sport. Obviously, cricket being the lead sport. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. I watch Liverpool sometimes, so if that makes somebody comfortable, then so be it. Right. So that's me actually. I'll just hand it over to Rahul.
Very good to meet you, sir.
Absolutely.
Great.
By the way, sorry, before Rahul starts, what is the name of your team? It can't be Vedant Tiwari, or is it
No,
still
it's not
Vedant?
I went with Nuevo experience, but when I saw the actual presentation from MBAtrek, it just said Team Vedant. And people have been assuming in my institute that I actually went with the name Team Vedant. So
No, but
I
what is
had
the
to
name?
clarify that
Sorry,
that was not my first choice.
what is the name?
Nuevo experience.
Nuevo experience. Okay, that is it. Ayush, we have to go and change it everywhere. Okay, it can't be Team Vedant because I'm sure you didn't thought of it as
Yeah,
Team
no,
Vedant.
no.
So. Okay,
It
Rahul, go ahead.
sounds very awkward to me as well.
Okay, cool.
Great. So Vedant, I am Rahul and I am the business head for corporate and young professionals vertical at MBAtrek. I have been working with MBAtrek for more than 2 years now. And we have been working on a lot of things in the past 2 years, building a lot of capabilities. And now's the time when we are expanding into things. And before joining MBAtrek, I did my MBA from Delhi School of Economics. And before that, did my undergrad from Delhi University BCom Honors. So joined MBA as a fresher, but have been learning a lot of things during my MBA and now my time at MBAtrek. So it has been fun and we are doing a lot of things. Yeah. So that's me.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you as well.
Hi Vedant. So I am Ayush. I am working as a product and business development manager at MBAtrek. I recently completed my MBA from IIM Kashipur 2020. So total, I have 3 years of experience of working in the education industry and prominently only in startups. So for 2 years, I had my own. For next 6 months, I worked on establishing one in Kota, Rajasthan, and now I'm working here at MBAtrek. Just like Abhishek said, I'm also I love coaching, mentoring people, students specifically. And just like Rahul also said, the journey so far in MBAtrek has been tremendously great, full of learning, full of opportunities. And we believe, the same should happen to you wherever you go, be it MBAtrek or be it any other, company. The internship is going to be full of fun, full of learning opportunities and everything positive, right? So I believe that would be all from my side. Now I would request you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much for all of your introductions. Well, my name is Vedant. I graduated from Earlham College in 2019. That's a liberal arts college in the Midwest of the United States of America. And post that, I came back to India because I didn't really want to stay abroad. And I enrolled in IIM Sirmaur. I studied psychology and philosophy when I was doing my undergrad. And I'm fairly indecisive still about what I want to do with my MBA. Although user experience is one of the few things that have really, really stood out. So I was really grateful for this competition in general. And yeah, apart from that, in my spare time, I guess I am into, I guess I would call them the simple pleasures of life, like making tea in the morning or stargazing or, just playing some instruments. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's me.
That's great. Stargazing is something we haven't heard from, students in past, many days, many months. So
By
it's
the
like,
way, which city do you live in?
Right now I'm in Delhi.
Okay. Yeah, you're not going to see any stars here, man. Sorry.
Oh, no, no, no.
You don't see stars here.
None.
You see once I went to Dharampur, Kasoli,
Uh-huh.
and you through the lockdown, obviously the sky was very clear and you could see a bunch of stars, 5 or 10, you get very excited. I went to Dharampur and I saw 100 stars in the sky, what I could count,
Wow.
and it was,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's completely different story. But yeah, great to have, I think, a non-engineering background. I think you should use that to your fullest during your MBA, actually.
Mhm.
You're doing a great service to the rest of your colleagues who are going to be just regular MBAs, regular engineers.
No, I learned
So,
from them a lot too.
okay,
It evens out.
good, wonderful, cool. I think Ayush, let's hand it over to Vedant now.
yes,
Good to go.
sure. So just a second. Yeah. So Vedant, I've already given you the sharing rights. Okay.
Okay.
Now you can share your screen and start with the presentation. And just to remind you, the time allocated to you is 20 minutes, and I'll give you reminders after 10 and 15 minutes also. Okay.
Wonderful. Got it.
Make
Thank you.
yourself comfortable, make the best use, out of this. And yeah, please go on. All the best.
Thank you. Is my screen visible now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So, okay, I guess we'll get started. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to this presentation. My name is Vedant. My team name is Nuevo Experience, although I think that got lost somewhere in the middle. I'm from IIM Sirmaur and very excited to be delivering my presentation in front of all of you. So let's dive right into the introduction. This case study solution comprises of the user personas, user journeys, some suggestions for a version 2.0, and an analysis of MBAtrek's industry suggester. the user personas and journeys, and essentially everything that you will come across in this slide, in these slides. It's based off of an extensive research. I mean, I went through MBAtrek's website. I tried to look up MBAtrek on social media. And beyond that, I conducted a lot of interviews and conducted certain surveys with my relevant customer segments. Although I have to say, I didn't really make use of the surveys as much because I found the interviews to be more insightful. And I took certain liberties when I was recommending possible features for future iterations of the app. I know one of the second criteria, in fact, was real world applicability. But to be honest, I don't have an engineering background and I don't really know what it takes to develop some elements in an app. So I just thought I would throw my best and bold ideas and see which one lands. I hope a couple of them did. And yeah, I didn't attempt the bonus question for this case study. I thought about adding it in last week, but I think you might have heard from my fellow students that IIM Sirmaur, we've had our midterms during this time and also my brother's wedding. We finished the Fera and the Vidai at 7 a.m. this morning. So this is a big day for me. Moving on. To begin with, I thought I wanted to share this quote from Steve Jobs. You've got to start with the customer experience and work back towards the technology, which is, I guess, what we're trying to do here, which I guess every user experience official should aspire to. I think it's very important we understand that, understand what the customer wants and how we can make sure that they have the best experience with that product before we try to figure out what we need to do in terms of the technology, what it should look like, what the product should be. And that's something I kept in mind when I was trying to create these user personas and journeys as well. So, okay. Starting off with the first of the two customer segments, that's the non-engineering undergrad and the user persona and journey. So here we have a user persona of a non-engineering undergrad. For the purposes of this presentation, she has been named Swati Pant. She is a psychology major from a liberal arts college. And I won't go over each and every aspect of this user persona, but I will draw your attention to certain elements which I think are important and highlight why I thought I should include them in this way. First of all, I think is the quote, which you see in the top right corner. It just says, I don't know what career my academics are best for. This is a paraphrased thing, although I think it was more or less quoted by 6 different people in over the course of the interviews that I conducted. And that's something I can relate to as well, because I have a liberal arts background. And I would say that my academics were my favorite part of college, or it was definitely a terrific part of my college journey. I loved what I studied. I studied philosophy myself and psychology, but that entire time I wasn't sure what this is going to translate into during the future. And so but I didn't want to be biased because I knew that I didn't want to project myself as a persona. So, but I was really happy when I conducted these different interviews and I saw that the same sentiment was echoed by a lot of people who had studied history, sort of saying that this was good, I enjoyed it, this is good at, but I'm not sure what career goes on from here. Or maybe the options that they did have, they weren't completely satisfied with it. And all of that is sort of encapsulated within the user persona of Swati Pant here, saying that she enjoyed what she studied in college, but she's not sure if she wants to pursue a career which is strictly in that discipline going forward. But at the same time, she's not sure if she has developed the sort of skill sets or the temperament that she would need in a corporate job or a more corporate setting. And in that sense, I think she's actually a very perfect candidate for MBAtrek and what we are trying to do here, because she's the kind of student who needs counseling. She's obviously talented, but she needs some kind of guidance in order to figure out where to go, what to do, how to get there. And certain features that I thought I would include in this persona were things like the career motivations, because I think we need to get a sense of that in order to really guide students to their eventual goal. For Swati, for the non-engineering undergrad in general, I found that the meaning that they derived from work was a huge factor of what they said they were looking for in the future. The monetary influence was there as well, but on a relative basis, it slid a little below. It's not to say that they don't care about money, but there's definitely some kind of a trade-off where they want more meaning out of their experience. They want meaning out of their jobs. And certain other things that I thought were interesting are the sort of influences that they have, which you see in the right corner over here. um, and the apps that they use. I think this is important in the sense that we sort of define ourselves based on the people we see around us, or the aspirations we make, the goals that we set for ourselves, and the ideas that we have about what to do in the future. They're sort of derived from our influences, the things we interact with. And so I thought it was interesting, especially when we'll compare this going forward with the other student segment, that there was a lot of the non-engineering undergrad students that I spoke to said that their peer group, their college environment, their professors, they had a significant influence on them. Like they looked up to these people. They liked their professors. They wanted to be like them. And the apps, I think it's important just from the sheer sense of where are we going to find these customers? What are they into? How do we target them? And so, yeah. And like I said before, the reason for creating a user persona, I know that it wasn't strictly asked for within the framework of MBAtrek's guidelines. But the reason I wanted to include a user persona is because I think we need to have a common shared sense of like the customer that we're making a product for. Because I might have a sense of what a liberal arts graduate goes through because I just finished my journey. But it's important that everyone within the team shares that sense of who is it that we're building this product for. And in order to understand the journey, we need to understand who the person is in order to understand how they're interacting with the product, what they're feeling, what exactly is it that they need. So that was essentially the idea. And moving right on to the customer journey or the user journey. So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how exactly to do this breakdown. I'm still not convinced if this is the perfect one, but this did make sense to me that I segmented along the portion of how someone discovers MBAtrek, how we convert them into downloading the app, what's the first sort of engagement, maybe a free trial, a demo, how we keep them engaged, and through that engagement, how we retain them as long-term customers, and finally, advocacy, because this is the kind of thing, if I heard my friend had really benefited from, then I would be very likely to take it up as well. In fact, I think that's one of the, at least for me, I think that that's one of the main ways that if you're going to target individual students and customers instead of institutions, that's one of the main ways that students would get attracted to an app like this. And of course, there's way too much to go through all of this in a rush, but I would just highlight, also I would wanted to say that across the segments, I focused on the places, the user pain point. So the user pain point speaks of the thing that we have to address. What is it that the student is feeling? What's not working for them? And the touch point is where MBAtrek comes in, like how are we interacting with them at that point? What the user expects out of that interaction, what their experience is actually like, and what we could, possible improvements. I mean, of course, I didn't really have a demo of an app to work with, but just things and features that I thought could be interesting. And key performance index, just some to get an idea of how we know, how do we measure if that interaction was successful and went the way that we wanted it. So yeah, so I won't go through each and every bit of this, but I will highlight certain elements of it. So I'll just move this here. So I guess just the first column, first row, the user pain point of user is at a crossroads and is confused about how to figure out what she should do career-wise. And that I think is, of course, like the primary market for an app like us. Not the primary market, but like one of the major segments, definitely. And maybe if the user comes across this as an advertisement, comes across MBAtrek as an app on a social media ad, I'm not sure how they would react to it. I don't think a student would be convinced that an app can guide her through the long-term journey of what she needs to do. But one thing we could do is we could highlight certain stories of students who are similar to her and who have found success through the app, in order to sort of get that initial engagement and get the person to just download the app and try it out. So that's just how this customer segment would discover an app like this. Just one second.
Sorry to interrupt. 10 minutes are over, right?
Okay, good. Thank you. Just one second. Right. So when I was developing this, I didn't really know how the app would function, but I thought it would be nice if there was a demo feature that sort of let the student explore certain features of MBAtrek, the different, you know, things like grad explore, industry semester, something like that, on a discounted or a free rate. Just because I think it's very difficult to convince anyone to sort of make any sort of large monetary commitment to an online thing or even an app, unless they have a sense of how this is going to be useful for them in the long term. So I thought a demo in that sense would be very useful. And the demo, I just thought one thing that could be added to that is that we keep in touch with the people who do our demo, as in we get some kind of mentor connection with them, so that the person knows that this is an app, this is a company that cares for the student and wants to really guide them through the entire process. Um, and yeah, actually, I'll go through more of the user journey in my next customer segment. For the sake of time, I'll move on for now. So now we have the second customer segment, which is the MBA student and their user persona and journey. So it's a similar layout to the one that we saw initially. This user persona is named Harshit Chaudhary. He's 24 years old. He's pursuing an MBA. He's a finance major. And immediately one of the big distinctions that I saw from the liberal arts background for MBA students was that most of them seem to have a clearer focus. They had a clearer picture of what they wanted to do. If not the exact company they want to go to, but they have a sense of what is it that they're looking for. Because if someone is pursuing finance and doing an MBA, they have very clear targets. They understand what they want to do. They know, they almost know how to get there as well. But the journey is obviously very difficult. It's a very competitive market. It's not as easy for everyone. A lot of students that I spoke to said that I would love to be able to land some sort of really meaningful internship that can help me in the long term to get the job, the final placement that I want. But I've not done the sort of things that I would need to land that internship in my past. So they would say that the CV is lacking in the sort of skills that the companies are looking for during their internship. And for some of them, I just know this also from a couple of the students said that during our, so we have a training and development cell at IIM Sirmaur, and two of the students that I interviewed, I asked them about their experience, and they said that the work that the TND cell did on their CVs and resumes not only did help them land more interviews during the live projects and internship phase, but it also gave them a confidence boost. So that's something very simple. And the people at TND Cell, as great as they are, they're not exactly, trained professionals, but it just showed that there's a lot of potential there for a company like MBAtrek to really help boost the student, especially because not all MBA institutions are going to have a dedicated cell, which is, full of really talented people who can vet someone's CV, fill it out, sort of teach them how to frame it in a way that makes them appealing to a lot of the institutions that they're looking to get hired by. So one more distinction I wanted to point out from as compared to the liberal arts graduate, the non-engineering undergrad graduate, that monetary motivations were really high. And as someone who's pursuing an MBA right now, I can totally understand that. It is a large monetary commitment in the first place to pursue an MBA degree, especially if you are going to one of the private institutions or even IIMs. The fees isn't exactly cheap, and so you want some return on index, return on investment or something like that. You want a paying job, and that's really front and center in a lot of what you do. So this kind of person, this user would have a very sort of different sort of interaction with the MBAtrek app as compared to the non-engineering undergrad. And I have tried to, in the user journey that I've laid out, I've tried to sort of capture that difference, that this sort of student, this sort of user is not likely to be looking for the same things. And so how that interaction differs and what we can do to sort of convert a student like this is what I've tried to capture in the user journey. So it's a similar layout as the one before.
Last 5 minutes.
Here. Okay. So again, because of the shortage of time and for the sake of brevity, I won't go through the details of this, but I would say that, so one thing that I thought was interesting was, one second. So one thing that I found interesting when I was speaking to some of the MBA students during my interviews was that their biggest concern is that they don't want to waste time on anything which is not delivering results on a very quick term basis. So if they are investing some time into an app like MBAtrek, it really has to pay off on a day-to-day basis to keep them engaged. And they need to feel that sort of benefit from that app in order to be consistent customers, to stay engaged with the app, and for us to be able to retain them. And I've tried to sort of capture that in this user journey. I'll move on from it now for now, but I would be happy to address some of it in the Q&A later or the discussion later. Next up, we have some suggestions, some possible suggestions for a version 2.0. So like I said earlier, I'm not entirely certain about the engineering that would go into something like this, but here are some features that I thought could be very interesting. A mentor/support connect. I just think that's vital, that there should be some sort of in-app messaging feature. I did a TEFL course, which is a teaching English as a foreign language certificate during this lockdown, and it was entirely online. And one of the best features about that was that I was constantly in touch with a mentor of sorts. It didn't mean that the mentor replied every couple of hours or something, but even if he replied within that day, that sort of gave me a sense, some sort of clarity that I was doing this right and how I could go on from there. So I thought that would be a good feature to have. In-app quizzes and the gamification of the app. So both of these are basically, they're both meant to not only retain this customer, but they're also supposed to help the student learn better. Both of these are sort of coming from a design basis and also what could be beneficial for the student as well. From my experience, and I looked up some research, that people will sometimes open up their games which offer them these sort of benefits and rewards for logging in, even if that's all that they do for that day. Even if they don't play that game, they want to create that bonus. They want that streak. I think Snapchat has that feature. I'm not exactly on Snapchat, although I'm 24 and maybe I should be. But I know for a fact that a lot of people are really into that, are really motivated by something like that. I also wanted to, there's a testimonial feature. And one thing that I want to say, a mental health feature, which again might be very much outside the scope of what MBAtrek is trying to do. But there was, when I was going through MBAtrek's content, I thought there was some consideration for the students' overall well-being and holistic growth. And I thought that was very interesting because that's not usually what you expect from a guidance or counseling perspective. Maybe an in-person counseling, but definitely not an app. But I thought that was really wonderful. And maybe it's just a personal preference of mine, but it could be really something that could be developed into a full-blown feature, because I don't think there's a lot of other companies doing that. I don't think there's a lot of companies who are sort of checking in on students like, hey, are you doing okay? Are you sleeping well? Are you staying in touch with your friends? Are you doing well mentally? So if possible, I think that could be a very good feature to explore. And part two, and sort of to conclude the presentation, we have the industry suggester and analysis. So I'll just go question by question. Who is the user? I think our first user persona would actually be the user. Even me, to be honest, even though I'm in my first year as an MBA, I still don't have a very clear sense of what exactly I want to do. User experience and product management aside. So any student who's looking for focus and needs some kind of counseling would be the perfect user for this. The value proposition is, in a country like India, very easy to explain. Abhishek was saying in this beginning of the introduction that he did his engineering and an MBA, and I think that's 95% of the country, maybe more. And I think there's a lot of us who would maybe have done things differently. I think I would have done things differently. My liberal arts thing worked out very end of the minute. I was about to become an engineer and then an MBA student as well. And I'm really glad that it worked out. And it only happened because of some exposure that I had from my friends. And I think that's the value proposition of this app, that it could show paths that students didn't know exist before. How these things can be improved. So one thing that I thought was interesting or wanted to maybe see in the app was some suggestions of sort of non-mainstream careers. Maybe I didn't just manipulate the my replies enough in that, but I just thought a lot of the answers that were coming in about the suggestions about my possible careers were more or less what I would expect to see, and not really like, there was no suggestion of maybe you should look into UI and UX. And I think that would be interesting. I think that could be something that really, or gaming, esports, web development. I didn't see a lot of those replies coming in. So maybe if there could be some tweak in that sense. And really quickly moving on. So I'll just cover this in a summary. I don't want to go through it one by one. One thing that I thought could be improved or could be added was the way the industry suggestor opened up on my webpage was not really aesthetically pleasing. And I think that's something we could or we should work on. There are some personality tests when you take them. They're just so beautifully laid out that it's an exciting thing. I want to click through the questions. I want to see what my user persona or my personality archetype comes out to be, because just of the aesthetics, the sheer aesthetics. And I think that sort of thing, it's an exciting thing to take. I mean, the industry suggestor quiz or the feature could be really meaningful to someone. And so the visual elements should sort of encapsulate and represent and reflect that as well. That this is, this is a big deal. You're trying to figure out where you're going in the future. And if the UI aspect of it sort of kept up with the basic idea, I think it would be a much more enhanced experience. And finally, there were some questions that I didn't really know what to do with, but I wasn't allowed to skip. That definitely, I think, is something that could be worked on, like the question on the characteristics of your coworkers. I didn't really care for any of the options that were provided to me in that, which were education, class, region, and income. I would have more liked to see things like professionalism, open-mindedness, respectfulness, and I wouldn't really associate those with education or income level of a person. So that was one thing, because I think that ultimately changes what the eventual answer is going to be about my industry. So if there could be a skip feature for questions like that, I think that would be great as well. And I think I might be almost out of time, so I'll just go ahead and end this gracefully and conclude the presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Let's start the discussion, I guess.
Okay. Yes, you are right about the time part, but I think that is okay with us. The presentation, the delivery has been great. Yeah. Sir, you have to say something?
No, I was going to say, I think great presentation. Lot of detail. So that's very, very interesting. I think, so I think couple of things, Vedant, just, and maybe I think a big portion of the competition was actually the UI piece. And I don't know if you have that in an appendix or somewhere, because we were also hoping to see some app screens, and they didn't have to be actual app screens, working app screens. They could have been just, you building a design together, because we actually believe it's one of the key roles of a UXO, and we're looking for someone around that. So uh, I think that would be just sort of a general feedback, I would say.
Okay.
But I think the user personas, I think, very well thought through. We do appreciate a lot of that, purely because we have a couple of organization psychologists in our team. So we understand all those different terms and the sliders of personality archetypes, and dispositions and motivators and drivers and all that. I've learned it over a period of time from far more educated people than in that area. So and I think that's important. I had a couple of questions. So you touched upon the mental health piece, right? And actually now increasingly with what is a bubble based world that we live in, um, how do you see that playing out for someone like MBAtrek? Yes, we've tried to do some things around that, but we haven't. I don't think we've done it the right way or anything. We've just touched upon a little bit on our social media and other things and all that. But as an existing student, what do you think that we can build in an app journey or a companion that can solve for some of these mental health issues? And especially given your background, where I don't know if you looked at organizational psychology as a subject, but still, I mean, even general psychology, right? What do you think we can do to help students on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So I think that's true. I think it's also fundamentally very difficult to accomplish mental health help through an app or any online feature, in fact. And especially given our cultural context in India, that's an even more challenging thing, because when you if you're not, it's not as simple as sort of like trying to talk someone through the sort of stress that they might experience during an MBA journey or as a student in general. But I think for an app, I think an MBAtrek app would be well placed to help students with their mental health things that they might be going through, because no one is going to separately download a dedicated app or anything or do really anything about their mental health in general. So when it comes as part of a holistic package of like, this is you thinking about your growth as a person, as in your career, your holistic development, I think having a feature of mental health there is more viable and more realistic to me than a student going out of their way to do anything else about it, at least in the sense of downloading an app. And so on a day-to-day basis, that could be as simple as sort of checking in with the student about their sleep cycle, sort of reminding them that the benefits or like what can go wrong, the sort of stress that you build up on yourself, how not sleeping well, not eating well, this sort of leads into the stress and depression that you might develop, the ill effects of that. And I think just gentle reminders every day to sort of make sure that the student keeps those things in mind could go a long way on an individual basis. I'm not saying that would work for everyone, but I think there is a receptive audience for that. From what I've seen in my MBA circle, there was even talk about starting a club around that, about mental health awareness. So there's definitely some sort of receptivity to that idea. So, but I think we have to be gentle. Like I said, the cultural context doesn't really allow us to really dive deep into that. But I think somewhere along the line, just small reminders, touching in, like checking in with people, I think that could work.
Sorry, just around that. So you're saying basically, as long as one can connect it back to your growth as a career, as a professional or in your career, and the role mental health plays for students, I think that's how we will address it, right?
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
I would think so.
Okay. So just from your perspective, I know you didn't touch upon the bonus round, which was more the business part of it in terms of the numbers and sort of what I wanted to understand from you is, let's say you said, okay, you get a lot of free users through trials and all that. What do you think from an app perspective, what needs to be done to move discounted, fully discounted slash free users to paid users? So of all the features that you talked about, the gamification, in-app quizzes, this, that, whatnot, what is it that we then push to then, because see, yes, you can get funded for a while to acquire customers and everything. At the end, even investors are saying, how are you monetizing your base? Where's the money?
Right.
It's the moolah, right? So you would have realized that very soon in MBA, everything revolves around money
Pretty much.
and finances, and which is the way the world works also, fortunately or unfortunately. But how do we move the customers from discounted, fully discounted to paid users?
I would say that the first experience of that discounted usage um, would mean a lot in this sense, to try and convert a student into a paying, partially or fully paying customer. And to that extent, I think some of the suggestions that I set for the uh, industry suggester feature, for instance, I thought that was an excellent feature to use, but it didn't really leave me feeling very excited when I used it. And that might be just like me personally saying that, and might vary for different people. I haven't really, I'll be honest, I haven't really checked in with other people who might have used that. But I do think that when I use a feature like that, it should bring out something in me. It should lead me to a different path. Like it should show me a way that like this is what you should be doing next, or it should just generate enough excitement in me to for me to want to do it on my own. So if there's an industry suggester, it should be paired up with something which shows you, okay, now that you have a sense of it, and if this seems good to you, here are some possible features that you should explore, you could explore. This is what you could be doing. And this is how MBAtrek can help you in this journey. So I think there should be an immediate connection between find out through the demo feature to a long-term goal, or some kind of a path which you can follow from there. And like I said, the UI at that point would definitely mean a lot. It should feel exciting. It should be visually appealing. So that's definitely one recommendation that I would have in that sense. Abhishek, I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I was saying basically closing the loop. So the
Essentially.
idea is you're leading them to some point, but you're not closing the loop by giving them something else that could potentially be monetized.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Okay. Cool. I'm good. Ayush, Rahul, go ahead.
Yeah. So, good presentation, Vedant. Just a few things, just one thing, before I actually start with the questions part. One of the most, one of the important parts was also, the coverage or the acquisition of 1 million users in the next 12 months and the strategies around the very same. So I think the personas have been really beautiful, but that part, the one that I'm talking about has been missed. So, and I won't really ask the very same because it is a very long answer, and you have to think, thoroughly around all the strategies that we can adopt. However, I will give you a question around that because in one of the slides you mentioned that the KPI to either assess the convert or the engagement part is going to be a number of downloads of the app, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So let me, present you with a scenario. Let us assume that, our downloads, our application downloads have decreased by 10% month on month basis in the previous quarter. Okay. So what problem do you think that would have, that is resulting into this particular symptom of the, reduction in the app downloads? And what is the solution that you propose for this?
So I would probably try to establish a couple of things about what's going on at that point. For instance, like if we are getting fewer downloads, I would also check in to see if we are also losing existing members. Are people deleting the app? Are people unsubscribing? So just to get a sense of, is it just something about acquisition? Is it just something about the advertisements? Are we just not reaching enough people? Or is it that there's general dissatisfaction with the app and that's sort of showing a ripple effect across through the downloads as well? And secondly, I would try to figure out if there are certain channels which are underperforming. Like maybe we get certain amount of click-throughs from our advertisements. Maybe when there's like a guest lecture, maybe when there is some sort of presentation at a university. Like which channel is it through which we acquire students, which is currently underperforming, and accordingly, I would try to come up with a solution. And of course, if it's across the board, if it seems like no matter where we used to get us clients from, all those channels are underperforming. There's on average 10% monthly like lack of people signing up. Then I would probably just give me 1 second. I think it would be important to figure out, just to get a sense of at that point about things like, has our app been not rated that well recently? Has there been a fall off? Because something like that can influence the number of downloads coming in. Because in the sense, if I open an app and it says 2.3 stars out of 5, I'll probably not download it. No matter how good the testimonials look overall from my ad or something, I'll probably not go for that. So I would check in on that. And if it's, and also other mitigating factors, like maybe it's a seasonal thing, I would have to look into the general larger data. And so I guess there's a long way of saying that I don't exactly know what I would do, because I think I would need to know what has gone wrong. And without that, I don't really feel comfortable trying to suggest some sort of solution to that problem.
Okay, so, given what you have actually, answered right now, let me stick to the point wherein you said that probably if the app rating is, let's say, 2.3 out of 5, me as a user, I won't download it, right? So just a follow up on this, what can we do, okay, as team MBAtrek, if that is the scenario, what can we do? How can we ask the users? How can we make the users rate our app, okay, in a better way? Let's say 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, by obviously not asking them to do it, or not, not just penetrating through our own network, but what strategies should we be implementing through the UI side, on the UI side or the UX side of the app, so that the users feel really, engaging, and they genuinely feel that this app has done something tremendously great over past few days or few weeks, and now I should be, rating the app as maybe 4 or 5?
I think one thing that is always important is sort of articulating your success or helping students understand what kind of progress that they have made while using this app. So if there's some way for a user who logs in to understand that this is where they begin and this is the point that they are at, and if there could be some sort of reminders coming in from the side of the app, like, look, this is the progress that you've been making, I think that would leave that would create some sort of positive reinforcement with in relation to the app. Like every time the user opens it, they remember, like, this is the journey that I've been on, this is the progress I've made. And I think that could reflect in higher ratings as well, because if the user understands, like, it can be difficult for someone to just, in abstract terms, try to understand where they began from and where they are at now. But if we provide them with proper milestones, some sort of check-ins, so that they know that this is the sort of transition they've made, I think that would make it more likely that someone values what they've gained from the app and end up rating it higher.
Okay, just a last question from my side, right? So, looking at your presentation, you have clearly defined the user persona and also a bit of the journey, how that would be taken care of from the download to the engagement. Now, in the user persona, you mentioned a lot of things. There were goals, frustrations, frequently used apps or influences. So, and, a very important part of a user persona is that whatever data we put into it and whatever data we think that, that we have to put into it should be relevant for the future mapping, journey mapping, right? So my question would be part one, why do you think, or how do you think, the data of influences and frequently used apps, wherein, where can we use this kind of a data? First question on the user persona part. Second, how are you planning to, fill this user persona? Do you want users to manually, just tick mark their goals? Because like what you said, a lot of students were not really aware of their industry, what they want to pick. So a lot of users won't really be aware of their goals, of their frustrations, of a lot of factors. Obviously, I believe that, for the Ocean personality test, you have a test, right?
Yeah.
But for other factors, how exactly are you going to map it, take care of that the user is adequately matched to the journey that he or she wants and not the journey that he or she desires? There's a different thing, right?
Right. Yeah. So for the frequently used apps, I think definitely in terms of advertisement, that could be something that, is something worth looking into. Also, I think looking at the social media or just the in general in phone, like mobile phone engagement of a user can sort of give you a sense of what kind of stuff they're already used to, that they look at. And that can be a model for making something of our own. So for instance, if someone is always using Instagram Reels, maybe that's something that could be used in the future for something that MBAtrek does. I'm not saying that that's exactly an example, but something in that sense, that some feature, something that they find engaging about some other app, like Twitter. If someone really likes being a part of a community where they can sort of pitch in their ideas and engage in a conversation or keep up with something, that's something that we can use to sort of model what we do in our app as well. As for influences, I actually debated whether or not I should include that in the user persona. I ended up doing that just because I thought it was interesting, because whenever I asked people, like, what is it that is sort of, propelling you towards the path that you're heading to, or like, even if you don't know where you're going, like, what is it that like you keep in mind? Everyone had a lot to say. So it clearly meant a lot to the user that, my parents or my professor, my peer group, or this person that I follow who I find really motivating, or I don't know, some social media thing. These influences meant a lot to the user. So I eventually ended up including that in my user persona as well, without really knowing how exactly I would use that, to map something out in the future. As for the second part, actually, sorry, can you repeat the second part of the question?
Yeah, sure. So my question was that in order to, when a user is onboarded, so he or she has to fill some information so that you can get the exact user persona. Now, how exactly are you planning to get that particular information filled, right?
Okay.
In order to provide a very adequate the best possible journey maps.
So, like you said, the ocean personality test is sort of administer, but in order to figure out someone's frustrations and motivations, I think there could be more generic questions that could be asked about the sort of experiences that the user has had in the past. Like if someone has work experience, then we could have a set of questions that sort of capture the sort of things that worked well for them and things that did not. And to get a sense of, okay, this is something that the user wants to avoid in the future. This is something that they look forward to. And yes, there is an element of like sort of leading people on to what they think that they desire rather than sort of capturing what is it fundamentally that they want. But I think if we try to make the questions as generic and objective as possible so as to not let someone's biases get in the way, I think there would be ways of developing a survey which would be useful to that extent.
All right. Thank you, Vedant. Over to you, Rahul.
No, I'm good. I don't have any specific questions right now.
So that was great, Vedant. Any question that you have for us?
Yeah, actually, one question. I was wondering, like, if you guys are looking for user experience officers, have you considered like design schools? Because I know some people who are in design schools who are into UI and UX in general. So why is it MBAtrek, like corporate competition for engineering and MBA students, and not for like all students in general, I guess?
So I don't know if you. So let me answer that. Maybe Ayush.
Yes, sir.
So my okay. So let me start with my own personal view, and I think then probably the aggregate of the team. I actually believe a UXO is not necessarily only a design person.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually looking for a business, technical, and design person together. So we were trying to marry all three together. And if you read the early part of the case, that's essentially the point. Is we actually it's not even a CTO; it's a CTO plus plus. So we're looking for someone who goes into an app and says, "This is what it will look like. This is what the journey would look like." They may hire UI experts to actually so their idea is to envision a UX and UI.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to necessarily build it.
Right.
But then the important thing is what you said, right? Okay, let's make the customer journey and get it right. That's what Steve Jobs said. But then, I need to scale it at a very large level. That's where the business education comes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then finally, I need technology to do it because that's the fastest way to do it anywhere in the world.
Right.
And the fastest. So essentially, that's where the business school and engineering piece comes into play, right? And we were hoping that we also find someone, and that's why it's a hope, and it's still the search is still on. We're trying to look for the all-in-one perfect individual who puts all the three things together. Because what may happen with when we have a design person, right? It's for example, in a way, Bollywood suffers from that a lot. That a lot of the purely creative people don't necessarily build films or content which is commercially sellable at scale, right? So essentially, we are looking for a happy medium where, for example, like Netflix has got that. Right? So I think like TVF, like the whole web series and TV series, short series, I think is a very happy medium where there is enough creativity in it, but it has a viral / commercial aspect to it as well, right? And essentially, that's our goal with finding a UXO.
I did not expect to hear that today, that MBAtrek aspires to be like TVF, but
no.
That's a good analogy. I understand.
Yeah, I think the idea is, see, what we are introducing as a concept as career preparation, career development is in a strange way very foreign to our own country, right? Because career counseling in this country is fundamentally what degree and what college.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. And it stops the day. It stops the day you enter college. That's it. Finish. There is no more career counseling ever done in your career.
Yeah.
Nobody talks to you about your career after that, actually.
Yeah.
Neither your parents, your family, nobody.
Yeah.
All they will ask you is, are you getting promoted? Or when can we get you married? When can you buy a new house? It is now life related things, actually. It has there are no more discussions on your career. And the interesting thing is, the discussions for your career start then, should start then, but nobody talks about it. And therefore we need that virality component to it, and that we need to be able to sell career preparation and the true career counseling, so that people actually get hooked onto it, because otherwise what we're attempting to do is very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit like, the market may or may not be ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, to give you an analogy, in the mid 90s, you had CFI and Times Internet start e-commerce, and these are big industrial houses who
Yeah.
started e-commerce, right? The credit cards existed even then,
Yeah.
but e-commerce didn't take off. E-commerce took off, well, 15 years later,
Yeah.
right? Where suddenly a lot of things came into play, and there was a virality to it, which picked up, and now everything is e-commerce, right? Um, so, uh, so I think, yeah, I think that's the idea behind it. That we need to have a situation where we're actually capturing the hearts and minds of young people when it comes to their career development. Because if they don't believe it's important,
Yeah.
then all they will do at the end of towards the end of the MBA or engineering or whatever degree they do, is just fix their CV and do some mock interviews and just show up,
Yeah.
which exactly what is happening right now.
I'm pretty much experiencing that right now,
Yeah,
firsthand.
right now,
Yeah.
absolutely. Nobody, either your campus or yourself, or your friends or anybody, is going to sit down and say, "Okay, Vedant, what do you actually want to do?
Yeah.
And let's get you there." And I think that's a fundamental thing.
It's wonderful. Thank you for that
Okay,
answer. Yeah.
yeah. Any other questions? Any other comments? Any other thoughts?
No, that was the one thing that I was really curious about.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I think, and therefore I think from a team perspective, that's what we are looking for.
So,
I'm having work from home issues. My wife is on another call. You can probably hear her.
yeah, happens all the
So
time.
no, I think that's what we're trying to do is unique, and therefore we need to. That's why I asked you about mental health. Like, what is it that we can do that people trust us to be their advisors for everything career,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is mental health the answer? What is it that
Mm-hmm.
would get them to listen to us on everything when it comes to career,
Yeah.
right? Okay, cool. Um, Sorry, I had one final question, if you don't mind.
No, no, of course.
Can
Yeah.
I used to have time for one final question?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Okay. So you had said somewhere that the MBAs are a lot more focused, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain degree, focus comes from either the specialization or whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Does that create, in some sense, and I'm hoping that you can answer from your psychology background,
Mm-hmm.
does that create a problem for us as a company? Because we may realize after doing, let's say, a diagnostic on an individual, that
Mm-hmm.
the path that they believe they should be on, that they are on right now, is not the right one for them.
Yeah.
So, do you believe that the app or the solution that we will build, do we look at course correcting for people, or do we say this may not be the ideal scenario, but okay, hey, let's work with that? What do you think the role for our app should be? Because that's something that even we are sort of on the fence about, honestly. So
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. And that could be really difficult as a student to sort of be confronted with that. I'm really convinced that I want to do this finance thing. I want to work at Goldman Sachs, make that money. But now I'm being told that maybe that's not, I should be in HR or something, like that's not my personality type at all. So I think ideally speaking, I think that would require some one-on-one mentorship, if that would be possible. It doesn't have to be a prolonged thing, but maybe even a discussion with someone to sort of figure out where that divergence is coming from. Because I don't think an analysis test could really tell us all of that. Like, why is it that this fundamental difference exists between what the person thinks they want and what the app is actually suggesting them to do? So an in-person conversation with some sort of experienced counselor would be helpful. Short of that, I think personally, I would say that providing this option to the student would be the best choice. Like being very honest as an app, like we understand that this is like a preference, but this is what we are sort of suggesting for you. Because after all, we cannot understand fundamentally everything about you. And so some decisions you have to make on your own. And sort of putting that onus on the student that we are letting you know all that we can from our side, and we want you to make an empowered decision. We just want you to know everything there is to know before you make a commitment. Because not everyone would feel comfortable sharing all sort of details with an app or even any other person anyway. But as long as they have those options, it's like being a good friend. You just tell your friend that, hey, you should know this. Ultimately, you have to make up your own mind. But I'm telling you, I think that this is also something that you should consider. And sort of having that kind of approach, not really making decisions for the student, could be beneficial.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That answers the question for me. So wonderful. Thank you. Great speaking to you, Vedant. And I think lovely presentation. Please go join back the festivities and the fun. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Wonderful. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I think good to go, Ayush. Then.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Let
so
him
much,
go.
Vedant.
Thank you, Ayush.
Take care. Thank you,
Take
Vedant.
care. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.